Chair, do you just want to tell Luke to actually start the...
I apologise. Luke, start the recording, please.
Yeah, we're live now.
Thank you, we're live. Hello, welcome everyone, councillors and officers, to the last meeting of the Northumberland Local Area Council before the election on the 6th of May. And this is a planning meeting only, and we have apologies for absence. In fact, I should say the procedures to be followed in a virtual planning meeting are that I would like you to put your hands up by using the electronic devices, please, so that we actually see who wants to speak next, and I do my best to follow that on the screen here. So please use the system we've got in front of us, and I'll ask you in the order that I see you put your hands up, and I will make a record with a pen of who it is. So the procedure, of course, is as normal, and we start with apologies for absence. Do we have apologies for absence, please?
Hello, Chair. I've actually received apologies from councillors Bridget, Clark, and obviously Councillor Thorne is having problems joining, so I'll put his apologies in if he's unable to join us. Yep. And Councillor Roughhead may be late joining us, Chair. He
did indicate that he might be late. Thank you. Item 3, the minutes. The minutes of the Northumberland Local Area Council held on Thursday, 18th of February, as circulated, need to be confirmed as a true record. Can I have them proposed as a true record, please? Thank you. Councillor Watson, is that agreed? Seconded? Thank you, Wendy, Councillor Patterson, and that's agreed.
Right, Councillor Castle, I think Danielle would like to actually go through the attendance list properly, just to check that all members are here.
Absolutely, Danielle.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to raise my hand on the electronic, but it wasn't working. Sorry about that. Yeah, if I can just run through the attendance list, and if members can just unmute and confirm you're present. So we've got apologies for Councillor Bridget, so Councillor Castle.
Yeah.
We've got apologies for Councillor Clark, so Councillor Hill.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Laurie.
Present.
Yeah. Councillor Murray. Can't see him anywhere.
No.
Councillor Patterson.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Renner Thompson. Can't see. Councillor Roughhead, we said may be late. Councillor Seymour.
Yeah, and Councillor Renner Thompson put in his apologies.
Okay, thank you.
He has put his apologies in, has he?
Well, he told me he had, yes.
All right, let's assume that he has done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorne, we know, is having some technical issues, and Councillor Watson.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Danielle. We'll, now that we know who's here, we'll now move to disclosures of members' interests. Are there any disclosures of members' interests on any of the items in front of us? I take that as no. Moving on then to determination of planning applications. And we have to determine the planning applications that are in front of us. And please note that the letters of objection and support are no longer circulated within the agenda, but we should have seen them on the council website before the meeting. And I've got my agenda in front of me. We're going to move on straight away to item 6, which is the revisions to the layout to replace 2 approved dwellings with 3 dwellings at lands south of Merriburn House, Lowood, Swan, Northumberland, on pages 21 to 38 of the agenda. Who is going to present?
I am, Chair.
Vivienne, welcome. The floor is yours.
Councillor Castle, I do believe that Councillor Thorne is, I've just tried to admit him to the meeting, so hopefully he should be joining us.
Let's give it a second, because I don't want to miss any of the presentation and then lose his vote. So I'll just pause for the moment, everyone, if you understand. Technology, never put your faith in it.
Okay, Gordon, I'm here.
Trevor, you're here. Well done, and I'm glad you've made it. I think I can safely hand over the chair to you, Trevor, because we've now got to item 6, and I was about to start with the revisions to the layout. That's 20.03622 full. I think it's acceptable, Danielle, that I hand the chair over now to Councillor Thorne.
Yes, that's fine, Councillor Castle.
Trevor, are you comfortable taking the chair right now? It would seem not. I can see him, but he's not moving and I can't hear him.
He's frozen, Gordon.
He's frozen. My concern is that he won't hear this application, and therefore he's the local member, I think, as well, which is why I would prefer that he was able to actually follow this application.
Perhaps we do number 2 first and then come back to this one.
I could do that. That's quite a good suggestion, actually, Jeffrey. I might well do that. Would that be possible, Danielle?
As long as the other members don't have a problem with that, Chair, if you want to just get a consensus from everyone.
Is there any objection to my proposal that whilst we sort out Councillor Thorne, that I go to the next item on the planning, which is item 7, the proposal for a single bungalow dwelling? Is there any objection to me moving to that first? In which case, that's what I'm going to do. So we'll press on, and I won't go back on this. Item 7, 1904-941, full proposal for a single bungalow dwelling, amended plans received on the 27th of the 1st at Burnhouse, Doddington, pages 39 to 48. Who is taking this through? Which officer is dealing with this?
It's James Hudson, Chair.
James Hudson. I'm in. Can you see me?
James, I can see you and I can just now hear you. The floor's yours.
Okay, let me just share this screen.
Thank you.
Okay, can everyone see the presentation there?
Yes.
Okay, great. The application seeks permission for the construction of a single bungalow at land west of Burnhouse, Doddington, Northumberland. So following objection from the parish council and 7 letters of objection from residents, the application was referred to the Director of Planning and Chairs of Planning Committee, where it was resolved that the application should be determined at Planning Committee. The reasons for the parish objecting are in relation to development being superfluous to the housing need of Doddington Village and matters relating to parking and highway safety. 7 letters of objection were raised in relation to right of access, water supply and parking. The site's a small infill housing site adjacent to Schoolhouse and is bounded by residential properties of Burnhouse, Hawthorne Cottage, which are located approximately 20 metres and 30 metres to the east of the proposed bungalow. The old school property located approximately 30 metres to the south, with access achieved from Doddington Mill via an existing access track. So the application is for a single bungalow, which will be orientated views into the site with materials to match the surrounding vernacular. Some existing hedges and tree lines will be retained as part of the development. As you can see here, the floor layout plan and site plan of the proposal. And if I just move on to the elevations. And the first photo you can see shows the site access facing west to Burnhouse. Burnhouse is the property on the right hand side, with the access track and boundary towards the back fence. And then the second picture shows a view facing eastwards with Burnhouse on the left, where the access will be given from Doddington Mill. These 2 pictures show views into the site facing north, and this is another photograph of the site facing towards the property of Old School. The application has been recommended for approval given the orientation, scale and degree of separation from nearby properties. It's considered there be not a substantive impact on amenity resulting from the property in relation to terms of loss of light, outlook or privacy. The site is a currently vacant plot of undeveloped land with existing trees and hedges on the boundary, and the proposed development would be in keeping largely within the surrounding vernacular in both terms of scale and design, and the visual impact of the development would be mitigated by its form and setting, viewed in the context of the surrounding properties. Just a note in regards to the objections made by the parish, it's considered matters relating to parking and highway safety have been addressed as part of this application. Northumberland County Highways team find the development to be acceptable, subject to conditions relating to parking and construction. And in regards to water supply, Northumberland County Public Protection teams also assessed the application and the development and found that the proposal is acceptable. And the applicant has actually submitted further information to demonstrate that they can connect to an existing private foul drainage and have a connection to potable water supply. And given the nature and scale of the development, I think it's considered to be acceptable location in principle and in accordance with the Berwick local plan and MPPF. And the comments raised with respect to the proposed development being superfluous to the housing need, that's not considered to be relevant in determination of the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any letters of objection or support to read out to the committee?
Not in this application, Chair.
Thank you. In that case, are there any questions from members, please? Can you close the screen so I can see members? That would be a help. Thanks, James. Super. I've got now Councillor Hill.
Thank you. Just on the presentation from the planner, James, there, regarding the objections that have been assessed and not considered to be significant to recommend refusal. You mentioned housing need in the area, the impact on parking and highway safety. What is the commentary regarding the other main points in the objections regarding drainage, right of access, residential amenity and privacy? What are the reasonings why the recommendation is to discount those objections?
So
thank you, James. Before you answer that question, I see we've got Trevor Thorne back in. I'm sure you'll remember the question from Councillor Hill. Trevor, can you hear us? If you'd unmute. Yes, if you can hear us, I'm afraid you're going to be excluded from this item. I've changed the agenda since you're the local member for the scheme at the first item. I've changed them round, so I'll enable you to be here and chair for the first item, which I changed to this item number 7. Okay.
Thank you for that, Gordon. I'm very sorry. I just couldn't get into the meeting.
Technology, not a problem. Sorry. Did you follow the question sufficiently, James, to now answer Councillor Hill?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's fine. So I think a lot of the objection letters were concerns around potable water supply and in relation to foul drainage. Doddington's obviously it's not connected to Northumbrian water or sort of any sort of mains, electric, etc. So the applicant submitted further assessment following on from comments from our public protection team. With water for domestic purposes, they've proven that they can sort of connect it to a private water supply and discharge foul drainage to the existing treatment plant. They've also provided a contaminated land screening assessment. So they've satisfied public protection in that regard. And they've also submitted further information for our Highways Authority, who've recommended planning conditions be attached. In regards to amenity and sort of overlook and privacy, assessing the site, I think given the separation distances, there wouldn't be a sort of significant impact on resulting amenity from the development.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any, can I ask about the parking conditions? Those are conditions set by the Highways Department, were they themselves?
That's correct, yeah. They've requested a condition in regards to parking, construction method, bike storage, which are standard conditions set by them.
Good, thank you. Are there any questions of the officers from members? Yes, Catherine. Then Jeff.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So have all these items been covered now, apart from really the main objection is that privacy now from the Town Council? Is that the main objection now, if all the other things have been covered?
The main objections from the parish, yeah, the main objections from the parish council were in regarding sort of housing need and also parking, which have been addressed.
They've all been addressed. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thank you. Northumberland Water on the consultee's response made no comment.
Yeah.
Does that mean that they didn't ever had a problem with either the water supply or the drainage supply?
Given the location, Northumberland Water doesn't have any assets in the area. It's all private connections. So we asked the applicant to submit information on how they were going to dispose of foul drainage and private connection, which they've submitted to us.
Thank you. Now I understand, because yeah, thank you. That's clear.
Thank you. Well, we seem to have no other questions. I'm going to move that I ask for a recommendation. Councillor Watson.
Move approval, Chair.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Lawrie, can we have any contributions? I'm looking to find a hand and I see no one wishes to speak on this. Does this mean I can move to the vote? I think I can. If there are no hands up, I'm now going to move to the vote. And Danielle, you'll note the responses. So
Yeah,
can I have those in favour of the application, which is to...
Sorry, Chair, can I just do a named call, if that's okay, just to get everyone's votes for, against, or
Understand.
abstention?
I'll leave that with you. Thank you.
Thank
Daniel's
you.
now going to call for a vote, and of course, we'll all know it's been moved in favour of the application and seconded. Thank you, Danielle.
Thanks, Chair. So yeah, so the recommendation is to grant the permission in accordance with your officer recommendation as set out in the report. Let's just go through everyone. If you can unmute, confirm if you're for, against, or abstaining. Thank you. Councillor Castle.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hill.
For.
Councillor Lawrie.
For.
Councillor Patterson.
For.
Councillor Seymour.
For.
Yeah, and Councillor Watson.
For.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Chair.
Good, thank you. That's cleared that nicely. What I'm going to do now is vacate the chair and hand it over to Councillor Thorne, who's probably more familiar with all the elements of the agenda than I was 20 minutes ago. So, Trevor, do you mind taking the chair for the first item on the item that I moved from, which we go back then to item 6.
Yeah.
You have the chair, Trevor.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Well, I must apologise, ladies and gentlemen. My laptop seemed to let me down today, but eventually it's righted itself, and here I am. So our next item on the agenda this afternoon for the Planning Committee, it relates to land south of Mereburn House, Lowood, Swarland, and it's a revision to the layout to replace 2 approved dwellings with 3 dwellings and the creation of a new plot for 1 dwelling. And I'm going to ask Vivian to speak to this application.
Thank you,
Vivian,
Chair.
over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to share my screen. You just bear with me. It's just thinking about this slideshow. Just bear with me. Okay, can everybody see that now?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, okay, I'll start then. Part of the application site and the adjacent site benefits from outline and reserve matters approval for the construction of 9 dwellings. Permission is sought to revise the layout of plots 8 and 9 approved under the reserve matters application and replace with 3 new dwellings, creating a new plot, number 10. Permission is also sought for an additional new plot, plot 11, and the proposal results in an increase in the number of dwellings from 9 to 11. Just going to move to the first slide now. You see the location plan there, you see the application site outlined in red. The site lies on the southern boundary of Swarland and is located to the south of Lowood. Access is from the existing state road. So you can see here, there's the application site. We've got Lowood here, and this is the access into the site. Now moving on to an aerial photograph. This is Studley Drive coming down here. This is Lowood, and then this is the application site. Moving now into the site plan. This shows dwellings approved under the outline and reserve matters applications, as well as the proposed new units. So if you can just see my cursor here, this is the new unit that's proposed, and that's plot 11. This is the suds basin here. Now, on this part of the site here, where I'm circling, there's extant permission for 2 units. What they're wanting to do is now replace that with 3 units. So you're going to have plot 8, 9, and 10. Now, the properties which would be most affected by the development are Low Wood here to the north. Moving on to the next slide, this is an overlay plan. So if you look there, everything that's outlined in black is the extant scheme. So you can see here, this is plot 11, which is proposed. And instead of these 2 black units here, you're going to have the 3 plots. I'm running through some elevations. This is for plots 8 and 9, plot 10, plot 11. A few site photographs here. This is the new access, and these dwellings that you can see there are the properties on Low Wood. Again, this is looking back towards the properties on Low Wood. This is where plot 10 would go. That's just a slide showing what's going on the site at the minute, because the site is under construction. This is where plot 11 is proposed. This is where the suds basin would go. The Parish Council objected the application, and 8 letters of objection have been received. The grounds for objecting are set out in the report. We've received a petition with 69 signatures. The proposal is considered to be acceptable in principle and in planning terms having regard to all technical matters, including impact on residential amenity, character, ecology and landscaping, highway safety and flood risk management. The recommendation is that this application be granted permission subject to the conditions set out in the report and subject to a section 106 to secure a financial contribution towards affordable housing provision off-site to the sum of £40,800. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Vivian. Thank you for that.
I'll just stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Have we got any items of public speaking this afternoon?
Yes, Chair, we have 3 items and I will be reading them.
Thank you very much indeed. As you all know, we've got a slot for supporters and objectors, and they're limited to 5 minutes each. And Leslie's going to present those for us. Leslie, over to you.
Thank you. This is the statement in objection to the application from residents, a number of residents. 1. Impact on character of area. Point 7.16 of the officer's report notes concerns raised regarding plot sizes, but does not address concerns about density. The original plans show 8-metre plot between plots 7 and 8, 7 metre between plots 8 and 9, and 5 metre from plot 9 to the boundary. The new plans contain significant reductions, only 4 metre between plots 7 and 8, 2 metres between 8 and 9, and 3 metres between 9 and 10, and 2 metres from plot 10 to the boundary. This is far higher density than the rest of the development, with average 7 metres, and that of Low Wood, to which the development is stated to be comparable. Additionally, this puts plot 10 significantly closer to existing properties in Low Wood than the 32/33 metres that was considered acceptable in the original granted application. Such high density housing on the edge of the settlement is not in keeping with the neighbouring area. The reduced plot sizes do not respect the character of the immediate area and are not fairly and reasonably related in scale and kind to the development as the NPPF requires. 2. Ecology and landscaping. The NCC ecologist originally objected to this planning application. Cousins submitted an applicant ecology response by AGT Environmental Consultants challenging this. The AGT document gives no information regarding their qualifications or expertise, and the company website is no longer available. We have concerns about damage already done to the local area, failure of the developers to adhere to ecological conditions previously imposed, and further damage resulting from the additional plots and delayed timescales. 3. Flood risk and drainage. We strongly disagree with points 7.45 and 7.55 of the officer's report, that the many issues with the site at present do not carry weight in the determination of the current application. There are already serious issues with the current access. The granting of the culvert is currently under investigation, as it appears to be contrary to Environmental Agency policy opposing the culverting of watercourses because of the adverse ecological, flood defence and other effects that are likely to arise. We raised concerns regarding flooding with NCC during the original application. Evidence we provided was overlooked in favour of Cusson's watercourse modelling, which does not take into account that, at times of heavy rainfall, when the Northumbrian water sewer becomes overwhelmed, the large manhole cover in Vinnier Park is forced upwards, rapidly releasing large volumes of foul water into the Mere Burn, just upstream of the culvert. The construction of additional, more densely packed housing immediately upstream of the culvert, nearer to the watercourse and on ground that slopes steeply towards the burn, will reduce the amount of land available to soak up water, / potentially act as a floodplain in this area, and put existing lower-lying properties in Low Wood at increased risk. It would be prudent to at least wait until current issues have been fully investigated before making decisions which will likely exacerbate watercourse issues in this area. 4. Highways and access and safety. The only access to the site is down a single track road with no pavements, no lighting and a number of blind junctions and corners. How many houses can be served from an unadopted road? ? Recently, there have been several near misses involving vehicles and pedestrians due to the increased traffic. Similarly, vehicles are increasingly having to reverse onto the 60-mile-per-hour Leamington Lane when meeting oncoming traffic at the entrance to Studley Drive. An additional 2 houses and associated private and delivery vehicles will exacerbate this problem, causing increasing danger to young children who walk along this unlit road to get to school. This goes against NPPF paragraph 127. Planning decisions should create spaces that are safe, inclusive and accessible. Miscellaneous. There have been several serious issues on site since work began, with various agencies having to take action to protect the local environment and residents. Many of these issues remain unresolved, with the developers instead focusing on ways to further maximise their profit, reneging on original plans in order to squeeze in as many houses as possible to the detriment of the local area. We feel that throughout the planning process, NCC has not listened to residents and decisions have been made by people who have never visited the site. The Parish Council understand the issues surrounding this development, yet their concerns too have been overruled. If the committee is leaning towards granting this new application, we would like to invite them to first visit Low Wood to see firsthand the issues faced and the impact additional houses would have on the area. Thank you, Chair. That was the statement in objection.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Thank you.
And now have a one from Newton on the Moor and Swarland Parish Council.
Thank you very much.
The new Low Wood site is an executive-style development of 9 large houses of mixed design. Its layout and density fit in well with that of the existing Low Wood site, and its density is lower than that of the recent Cussons development at Old Park Road. However, the access to the site, even after completion, is inadequate, as Studley Drive is a narrow lane without footpaths or even continuous grass verges. After meetings with Cussons, and the PC has significant concerns about the addition of 2 more houses to the development. In essence, we believe that the increased density caused by the extra 2 houses will affect the overall look of the western end of the development. Furthermore, the Parish Council considers that the footprint of the extra proposed house to the west is very near to the boundary within the 10-metre ecology area and is in relatively close proximity to the house opposite. This outcome is a direct result of trying to force 2 extra properties onto the site. Overall, the additional 2 houses will detrimentally affect the look of both the old and new parts of Low Wood, as well as further increasing vehicle movements on the already inadequate Studley Drive. The Parish Council accepts that the drainage calculations are compliant with local council government requirements. For the 9-house development, however, the size of the drainage system was over-specified compared to that required by government regulations. The area in question has always suffered from drainage issues, and we feel a system is required beyond that normally specified. We would point out there are frequent issues with flooding in Swarland and the Lowood area in particular, but the addition of 2 extra houses apparently will not include a corresponding increase in capacity of the drainage system. While the Parish Council was happy with the specification of the system originally, an increase in house numbers will clearly put a concomitant increase in pressure on the proposed drainage system without an increase in the ratio of the drainage capacity corresponding to the ratio of overcapacity in the original 9-house development. The Parish Council remains concerned about further houses being added to the development. The Parish Council is aware that a large number of residents in Swarland have voiced objection to the expansion of this development, together with a petition of objection from local residents and the Parish Council. Overall, the number of objections account for virtually all of the residents in the existing Lowood site and a large number from the surrounding site. It is unusual to have such a high level of objection to a development or expansion of, as in this case. It is the Parish Council's responsibility wherever possible to take into account local views about a development, and it is clear the local people who already live in the village, and in particular Lowood, do not support further houses. In conclusion, after considering all factors, the Parish Council does not support the inclusion of 2 extra houses into the ongoing Lowood development. We remain concerned about a degradation of the layout and density of this executive development, as well as the drainage, traffic and access. Thank you, Chair. That's the Parish Council one.
And the final submission this afternoon, Leslie.
Sorry, Chair, can I just interrupt a sec? I lost Councillor Watson off my screen just momentarily. I just wanted to check he hadn't missed anything.
Councillor Watson?
I didn't. I just got a glass of water from my desk.
That's fine, Councillor Watson. I just wanted to make sure you hadn't missed anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, Chair. This is a letter in support from Cousins. We wanted to take the opportunity to address the concerns raised by local objectors and the Parish Council to our application. Whilst a petition is referred to in the officer's report, we have noted that it relates to the original outline application for 9 dwellings and not the current application, and so in our view it should be disregarded. We would like to highlight that we have tried to work with neighbours and the Parish Council to overcome their objections ahead of this committee. Firstly, we wanted to address the issue of drainage and flooding and the culvert across the watercourse. Impact of the additional 2 houses on Mere Burn and the local watercourse is something which adjoining residents and the Parish Council have raised. However, as set out in the officer's report, we have carefully modelled the drainage impact of the additional 2 houses, and the resulting data has been submitted to and reviewed by the Council as lead local flood authority. They have raised no objections. There are no objections from the Environment Agency or Northumberland Water. The Parish Council and local residents have raised some concerns regarding the use of a culvert to cross the watercourse. We would highlight that the design of the culvert was approved at reserved matter stage and in the discharge of pre-commencement planning conditions. This new application does not change the already approved plans for the culvert. Secondly, we wanted to address the issue of density. The Parish Council and local objectors have suggested that the additional 2 dwellings would result in an unacceptable density of development out of keeping with the village. We would highlight, by way of comparison, that the density of the recent Cousins development at Old Park Road in Swarland, known as Rosetta Gardens, is 10.23 dwellings per hectare. The development, as already approved at Lowood, is 8.74 dwellings per hectare. With the additional 2 houses now proposed, the density would be 9.7 dwellings per hectare. This is very low density development and lower density than Rosetta Gardens, and in our view, a view shared by the case officer, is entirely appropriate for the site and neighbouring housing in this part of the village. Each of the new dwellings will benefit from large plots in keeping with Swarland Village. Thirdly, we wanted to consider the impact on the amenity existing residents of Low Wood in the context of highways and separation distances. From a highways perspective, the council's highways team have raised no objection to the 2 additional houses because the impact from the additional houses is negligible. In terms of impact on amenity, the new dwellings have been sited so as to be separated from existing houses by the retained ecology buffer and trees, and also located to be well in excess of separation distances between existing and new dwellings. As noted in the officer's report at paragraph 7.34, the usual separation distance between the gable of new and rear of existing dwellings is 12 metres. The proposals achieve 28 metres of separation. Finally, we wanted to address the impact on ecology. We want to make absolutely clear that there will be no impact on the already agreed ecology buffer. There will be no encroachment into it during or after development, and it will be maintained in perpetuity as already agreed with the council in the approval of the development of 9 dwellings on the site and in the discharge of planning conditions. In summary, it is acknowledged that there has been some disruption to the existing residents of Low Wood and Studley Drive during construction, but we continue to work with them to seek to minimise disturbance. We hope that once completed, local residents will see that Cussons has developed a high-quality development that will be a positive addition to the village. The current application by Cussons would increase the number of houses on the site from 9 to 11, but it will remain a low-density development of less than 10 dwelling per hectare. It is our view that the development is entirely in keeping with the village. The new development will also deliver a financial contribution towards affordable housing. Local residents and the parish council have raised concerns about drainage, ecology and traffic. Cussons has demonstrated through the current application that there will be an acceptable drainage solution, no additional impact on ecology or traffic, and this is substantiated by the responses from the council's own technical consultation responses from Highways, the local lead flood authority and ecology and landscape. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Committee, we now come to the slot where we ask the planning officers questions, and from the chair I would like to kick off one as the local member. You know, personally I think the crux of this matter is density and separation distances. So what I would like Vivian to answer is, you know, we've heard from Cussons that they're quite happy with the separation distances, but as planners, you know, have we got the separation distances correct? The impact of this new development on the houses at Low Wood. Vivian, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can give you a bit more information on this. As I've said previously, the properties which will be most affected are those on Low Wood, and I have got some distances for you. The plot 10, which is moving closer than the dwellings that were approved on the previous application. So I've got some distances here. Number 6, Low Wood, and this distance is taken from their conservatory to the garage on plot 10, and there will be a distance of 22.3 metres. Then from the corner of 5 Low Wood to the corner of plot 10, there'll be 30 metres. From the conservatory of 4 Low Wood to plot 10, there'll be 43.8 metres. So I think that demonstrates we're exceeding the usual privacy distances. So we are satisfied that this isn't going to have a detrimental impact on the amenity of the existing residents in terms of overlooking on privacy.
And the density issue, again, you know, we're increasing the number from 9 dwellings to 11 dwellings.
Mm-hmm.
And as regards density, do you reckon that this is still a low density development?
Yes, I mean, you know, Cussons there, when their statement was read out, you know, they were talking about it's going to be 9.7 dwellings per hectare. We feel that the plots are of an ample size, they've got generous gardens, and that the density of development remains appropriate to the character of the area.
Thank you very much. Catherine, you've got a question you'd like to put to our planning officers?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Actually, the first question has been answered on the high density and the extra houses that have, the council were concerned about being shoehorned. The other question I had was one that the first objector brought up, and that is that there's no lighting as not adopted, and it goes against the MPFF. Will this be adopted at some point in time, or after? Is there any plan to adopt it?
Are you talking about street lighting?
Yeah.
I think we've probably got Chris Mead here from Highways. I don't know if he wants to take this question.
Hi, how are you today? The street lighting element and the general kind of adoption set. So first thing, the site itself has a private maintenance strategy attached to it, and that's got a condition in relation to that. So it is always going to be looking after itself. Those number of dwellings have their own private adoption strategy. The question then really comes down to just to kind of get onto the street lighting point from a public highway position, which is some of the estate does show as public highway, some of the estate shows as private land freehold. It is an interesting estate by its very layout. I think anyone that's been there will know that it's a bit of a maze of houses that are not particularly high density. But in travelling along those routes, yes, there is no footpath, there is no street lighting, but there is a scale of development there which is already operating quite safely and relatively well in terms of how it is actually propagating itself there at this time. So the decision in this instance was whether or not 2 additional dwellings on top of a previous decision would require anything further than simply a little bit of resilience in how that area already works. And the decision was that a private maintenance strategy for that cul-de-sac as it would come through would be sufficient at this time. Certainly if we were looking at more in the future, we might want to redress how the local highway network responds for residents in that location. But for now, it's considered that it's able to support a scale of development in total, and this is an appropriate arrangement for that.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gordon, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. It's been mostly answered, and it was about access. Some issues were raised about the suitability of the access arrangement from Stewby Drive, and I note that one of the conditions indicates that there must be occupation of the housing before this can go ahead. And I just wondered, is there an access issue? Does the extra number of houses create any kind of potential difficulty that we should be taking into account with the access arrangements as opposed to street lighting? I mean, yes, some's adopted, some isn't. I realise that's complex, but are there issues about highway safety? Why have the conditions been put in by Highways Department in terms of houses having to be occupied before the permission is granted?
Thank you, Councillor Castle. It is an interesting area. I'm not going to pretend that the objectors are not correct in saying that it does suffer from narrow streets. That's part of its design. In terms of highway safety, it's not an area which has a highway safety issue, despite the fact it's laid out the way it is. It's quite a special area, and then it benefits from relatively close access to the A1. But in terms of access in and out directly onto the kind of what you would call the distribution roads that we would be interested in, I think in future we'll be taking a much keener eye on making sure that the width is there for the movement of vehicles. If there was to be further intensification in the future, we need to protect the safety of that space. It operates safely now, and it wasn't felt that an additional 2 in this instance was going to be the tipping point between a narrow solution working well and a betterment required today. But certainly we'll take a keen eye on that in the future to make sure that if resilience is not there in our mind as a highway authority, that we protect those residents and their safety in the future.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good answer.
Georgina, you have a question?
Thank you. So, okay, there's some very well-reasoned case put forward by the objectors, I felt, and I do have a feeling this is a bit of a classic case of a applicant, giving an inch, taking a mile. What it is coming down to, as I think others have mentioned at the beginning, a key issue is the issue of the density. I mean, you can't be precise, obviously, because you're only looking at the application before you, but the objectors gave some precise measurements about the distance between the houses. I mean, could you give an indication of what you would consider, too dense? I mean, if it was a row of houses, if it was a mews put in, I mean, what could you help with this sort of calculation of what would be considered too dense if this isn't?
I mean, there's no set distances. I know that the objectives were talking about plot 10 is moving closer and it's going to be 2 meters away from the boundary. We don't have any distances to say how close properties should be to boundaries. The distances that we sort of operate to are more to do with amenity distances. So it's more just, I suppose, a general feeling of how you feel it's going to look with the character of the area. I mean, I acknowledge that this development, the density is higher than what's there at Low Wood. Low Wood are very big houses, set within substantial plots. But our view is that the density, I mean, it's still a low density, 9.7 dwellings per hectare is still quite a low density, but there's no set figure of how you work it out. It's you look at the character of the area and what you think, is appropriate.
It's just to understand your reasoning compared to what the objectors are saying and about the impact of the design, because we've all seen it with houses and, I think we're all like, you want more houses, that's great for all sorts of reasons. And you understand that, companies, they're there to make a profit, let's be realistic about it. And that's not grounds to object, but it's just sometimes when you think it's just greed and they're trying to, get the extra mile and shove in an extra house and the effect of the design. I mean, we can all, and I'm sure we're all imagining house developments that we know are really nice and nicely laid out and tick all the boxes and win-win for everyone. And then others where they're just shoving in as many houses as they can, which affects the overall. So I know there isn't a precise, if it's 3 inches, if it's 7 or whatever, but it was just so I understand your thinking and what would be, which helps my thought process and others, what would you say would be too much of an effect of the general design?
Yeah. I think the kind of developments where you sort of say, you're overstepping the line in terms of density, it's going to have an impact, is where they're set on very small plots where they're right up against the boundary. They have very small rear gardens, and that's just not the case here. My view is the density is appropriate and it's not going to have an impact on the character of the area.
But that is obviously, as we've often come, it is a subjective opinion.
It is, yeah.
Thank you, Vivian. Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? No more questions? Could I ask for a recommendation, please? Councillor Castle?
Sorry, yes, I should have put my hand up electronically, as I insisted everybody else did, but something's gone wrong with me mouse. I recommend that I propose the recommendation is approved as given. I am concerned about the fact that they've squeezed a couple more in because it looks as though it's possible to do so, but actually the consequences to my mind are not excessive. I am a bit concerned about the access arrangements. I quite agree that that's about the limit really for this adopted road, partly and partly not adopted road. But the density itself, I've been there on site visits at least twice, and I absolutely take the point about the fact that there is a variety, completely a little unstructured in the way that it's laid out, Swarland, and this does not actually go against the grain. So I'm proposing that we accept the recommendation as shown.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Anybody seconding that recommendation?
I saw Councillor Watson's hand go up. I think he hasn't touched his electronic hand.
Okay. Councillor Watson?
You're on mute, Jeff.
Councillor Watson?
You're on mute, Jeff.
If Jeff can't unmute, I'll second it.
Thank you very much, Roderick. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I had a real problem. I lost you altogether just for 10 seconds, but I was happy to second it. But if Roderick's done it, that's fine.
I think Roderick's already done it. Right. The debate, ladies and gentlemen. I might start it off as local member. You know, I've recently been in Swarland, and, you know, I do get the problem. I do. The access roads aren't perfect, but they are what they are. And they have worked up until this development. And, you know, really the crux of this matter, I know there are issues with Alexandra Grove as it is, but we're looking at 2 additional dwellings. So, you know, on planning grounds, the important things to look at are the separation distances and the density. Now, Vivian has confirmed that the separation distances are good. They exceed what we'd normally expect. And the other issue for me, the important issue, is density. And I do get low density from Cousins developments. You know, we've seen what they're doing across the county. Their developments aren't high density, you know, and as a planner, you know, I like what they do. You go into their estates and you get the feel often of, on the bigger estates, a village green. They're not packing in the houses just to make money. They are creating a nice space to live. And, you know, I know this development is slightly different. It's not a big estate. It's an avenue, it's a row of houses, but they have got very large rear gardens. And, you know, personally, I am content with what they're doing. But, you know, long term, you know, I do take on board the concerns of the residents. We must sort out the problem, but obviously, you know, the parish council are shouting for a bridge, whereas we've got a culvert. The culvert has been approved, and, you know, our drainage people are happy with it. I too, on this occasion, am happy to support the recommendation to approve. Any other comments, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chair. I too share some of your concerns about access, but I'm not an expert, and that's what we have highways for. And I'm prepared to accept highways assurance that it's okay. Might be the last thing that's okay, but if they say it's okay, who am I to argue? How would I possibly come up with an argument that would hold any water? So with that in mind, looking at the density, I actually don't really, looking at the map, unless it's a very misleading site plan, they don't look close at all. They look, if I compare them to where I'm living, I'm sure I'm closer to my neighbours than these people are going to be on this particular site. So I'm happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Catherine, you've got your hand up. And Georgina.
Yes,
Catherine,
thank you,
first.
Chair. Yeah, thank you. I do have some concerns. I mean, there's a lot of local residents that have taken the time to set up a petition against this application.
Yeah, Catherine, can I just say, Catherine, can I just interject there? The petition relates to the previous application when the 9 were granted. It doesn't relate to this, the additional 2, yeah? Did you hear the planning officer say that the petition?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, you know, there is, you know, the council are concerned about the high density. I see especially plot 11 where it's moved out, and I just wonder, you know, this gets approved, then there'll be another one. Let's squeeze some more in, you know. It just really bothers me really that I mean, it's a development that they've got 9 houses, now they want 11. Are they going to want more later? And I just think that, you know, it will be an impact on the character of the area. So that does worry me. So, you know, I don't see anyone in support of it, this application from any of the residents, just against. But
thanks for your contribution.
so I do have concern.
Yeah. Georgina, over to you.
Thank you. I mean, I wasn't going to say anything because I think most people have probably made up their mind. I do have a lot of sympathy with what Catherine just said and with the parish council. If it does go the way that I'm thinking it's going, but we'll obviously wait to see in terms of the votes, as a point that Stephen Bridget would have probably made if he was here. In terms of the Section 106 provision for 40,000, which, I don't know, you're talking about quarter of a affordable house that would pay for. Can we at least not do better on that?
Could I ask Elizabeth Cinnamon to comment on that, please?
Thanks, Chair. So, yeah, Chair, thanks for bringing me in. I'll come to Councillor Hill's comments in a minute, but I just wanted to generally talk about some of the concerns that are coming up here in debate with regard to the planning application. I think the first thing to make really clear, members, is that the principle of development on this site is acceptable, and it's been acceptable through the previous planning applications. When you've got that as your starting position, that we know that development's capable on this site and in compliance with our policies, when we look at the NPPF with regard to densities and appropriate densities, it goes on to make it really clear that we want to try and make the most efficient use of the land that is available for development. So what we're saying is we want to see development on this site. It is going to be within the Swarland settlement boundary in the local plan coming forward. And we want to make the most out of that land. So, Councillor Seymour, you have talked a little bit about, you know, concerns about what next. Well, you have to look at what's before you today, and we think this continues to be an efficient use of this site, even though there are now more units here than before, and all of the technical issues that have caused us concerns have, with the right information, been resolved. With respect to the affordable housing, Councillor Hill, that is, as you know, worked out on formula basis with our housing enabling officers, and that meets their requirements. We don't have the benefit of somebody here today, but it wouldn't be, it's not enough to be able to provide an affordable unit on that location, but to have a takeaway of an affordable housing contribution, to be able to add it to another scheme and enable another scheme is another policy positive that makes this development acceptable.
Thank you very much, Liz. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. Any more contributions from the members this afternoon? No more contributions. Could I ask our legal officer to take the vote then, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, I know Councillor Ruffhead joined us partway through, so I won't be able to vote on this one, but can for the remainder of the meeting. So the proposal before members is to grant the application in accordance with your officer recommendation as set out in the report. That's subject to a Section 106 agreement to secure an affordable housing contribution and the conditions that are set out in your report. If members can unmute and let me know if they're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Castle.
For.
Councillor Hill.
Against.
Councillor Lorry. Sorry, I think.
Sorry, 4.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
4.
Councillor Seymour.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Thorne.
4.
And Councillor Watson.
4.
Thank you. That's 5 for and 2 against, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our planning applications for today. Obviously, for information, we've got an update on appeals, how they're going, and also a report on section 106 agreement updates. In addition to that, this afternoon, we have a little piece from Newton Common. It's a report more or less saying that statutory consultation can begin with looking forward to a management plan on Newton Common. But again, I think that is just there for information. So
Sorry, that we have got Helen Lancaster present, who's going to do a presentation on that. I understand it does require a recommendation on whether or not members want to proceed with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Helen.
Thank you, Chair. Try and get my video. There we are. There we are. Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is something a little bit different for yourselves this afternoon. I know that Village Green and Common Land matters don't come before these committees very frequently, but nevertheless we do get the odd request. So yes, hopefully the report is self-explanatory. As I say, it's not a long report. Essentially, I wouldn't propose to expand on it a great deal. Really only to say that the County Council has been approached by Newton by the Sea Parish Council and has been requested to commence the statutory process to make a commons scheme under the Commons Act 1899. The Parish Council has in turn indicated that it would then enter into an agency agreement under Section 101 of the Local Government Act 1972 to take on the powers of the County Council under the scheme. And I have attached copies of sample Commons Act schemes and a proposed agency agreement within the appendices of the report. So just by way of background, in terms of the land in question, it was added to the Commons Register way back in 1970, around the same time that much of the Northumberland's village greens and common land was registered. So the Parish Council have proposed that a scheme be made to enable better management of the land in question. Just to say that common schemes have been made within the county in relation to village greens. As far as I'm aware, I think this would be the first one in relation to common land, but the legislation certainly provides for this, so that's not an issue. So the recommendation is basically within the report. It would just be for authority for this council to start to commence the statutory consultation process with regard to making a scheme under the Commons Act 1899. And if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to assist.
Thank you. Members of the Planning Committee, anyone want to raise any questions with Helen? Wendy? Wendy, you're on mute at the moment. Wendy, you're on mute.
So sorry. I do deplore it in others, but not in myself, of course. It's not really a question for Helen. It's just, as the local member, the Parish Council have taken great pride in this common land. They pay extra. Northumberland County Council actually cuts it, but they pay extra for someone to come and trim and keep it nice, and they've planted bulbs and lots of things on it. And I think they actually thought it was theirs in the first place. So I just wanted to say that, and it wasn't really a question for Helen at all.
Yeah, no, well, totally get where you're coming from, Wendy, and thanks for batting for the parish council.
Not at all.
Georgina, question?
Yeah, it's sort of a point stroke question, just sort of related. It never ceases to amaze me in Berwick, and I presume it happens elsewhere, the amount of pockets of land where there's a dispute in ownership, or not disputing, almost saying, oh no, it's the housing association, oh no, it's NCC, oh no, it's the railway company, oh no, we think it's private. It's just a general observation. I don't know if Helen wants to comment, but sometimes it comes up quite a bit when, you know, obviously when there's an issue with the land, whether it's relating to mismanagement or people, whatever. The first step is who owns it and then, you know, what the solution is. But at the starting point, some areas, there does seem to be issues and disputes about who owns it. And I don't know if you've got any commentary about helping that. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, but I've certainly had that in pockets of land between my Spital, and it happens to Berwick as well.
Yes. Well, from the chair, can I just say, you know, not in my patch, but I did have a flood damaged bridge that suddenly no one wanted to know about.
Yeah.
But in that instance, I did offer up some council money, and that council money had an attachment of, well, I would like you to take ownership if we're going to put the bridge right. So, and I think, you know, in the end, these anomalies do need sorting out. You know, we've got to decide, you know, who's in charge. And again, in this particular instance, I think the consultation is probably a good one. Gordon.
Yes, just very quick on that, because it's an interesting subject. We'd be here all day and we mustn't be. But I have in my ward a wall in part of a field that formerly belonged to a developer which has gone bust. The developer doesn't exist anymore. So who owns it? Who owns the wall? Who's going to repair it? A question that hasn't yet been answered. The county council is not surprisingly unwilling to take on the extra expense, but it can't just be left to fall in the road. And in the end, if it does, the highways department will pick it up and fix it. So there are issues like that that do happen. And I've got another one on Fisher's Lane about the actual ownership of part of the wall, which is disputed. So these things do arise, and the land registry is not always a clear answer.
No, no. So, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. Trevor's phone going off.
That's your round.
Yeah, but are members happy that we take this forward and allow consultation to start to take place? Do we
I'm happy to move the recommendation, Chair, if you like.
Yeah, you're going to recommend that we do, Jeff?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And is that seconded?
Yes, I second.
Thank you. And Danielle, do we need formally to vote on this?
Yeah, I think so, Chair, just for as a formality, if that's okay. So that's a so that's a proposal to approve the recommendation in your report, which is to commence the statutory consultation process under the Commons Act 1899, as Helen presented. So if members could just let me know if that's for, against or abstention, please. Councillor Castle.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hill.
For.
Councillor Lorry.
For.
Yeah. Councillor Patterson.
For.
Councillor Ruffhead.
For.
Yeah. Councillor Seymour.
For.
Yeah. Councillor Thorne.
For.
And Councillor Watson.
For.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I think that brings our business to a conclusion for today. Thank you very much for your attendance. And again, I apologise for not being here at the start of the meeting. I did try very hard, but just couldn't quite get in. Laurie, Roderick, rather, you've got your hand up.
I just wanted to say, I don't know if everybody knows, but I am stepping down at the next election, and I wanted to thank you all personally for the help that you've given me over the 4 years.
Well,
thank you very much.
A pleasure to have you on the council, sir. It really has.
Thank you.
And I'm sure I speak for us all.
We do, and the best of luck for everybody else.
Yes, quite.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll now bring the meeting to a close. Thank you for your attendance and your contributions today. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.